1, 2, 3.
Okay, we're synced.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, cool.
So, hi everybody. Hello, hello audience. Welcome to the podcast that doesn't have a name yet, but it's like the pilot episode, so don't worry about it.
We're treading uncharted territory here, people. A podcast with two white dudes has never been done before.
Never, especially not one
It's unprecedented.
Like popular media.
Dude, oh yeah, no.
Never.
It's, completely uncharted waters here.
But yeah, hello and welcome today as our pilot episode. I wanted to talk about something pretty general that I think a lot of people will have an opinion about, and I have chosen friend of the channel, Lapis Lancer. Everyone give him a hand. I'll edit in.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Hold your applause.
But yeah, you may remember him. I mentioned him in the Undertale video. He's an artist.
Which was fantastic, by the way. I felt like I was the only individual on the planet Earth who liked that video.
Yeah,
you got ripped a new one, my guy.
There's a Tumblr user. I won't say their name because I've forgiven them. But there's a Tumblr user who like DM'd me and was like, "I'm sorry that I left really mean like clip names on that video. I put it on my Tumblr blog and I realized it was in poor taste." I was like, "Okay, thanks."
What?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even see him, but I appreciate your humbling yourself. So.
Yeah. Heaven forbid a fandom can have like the maturity to hold dialogues and discussions about their favorite franchise. It's so mind-boggling to see that we can't even talk about these things because you didn't really even give specific opinions on things. You just said, "Hey, here's some things I've kind of thought about. I want to hear your guys' thoughts." You opened it up for a discussion, and everyone took it and ran a completely opposite direction with it.
Yeah, but such is the nature of the internet. I appreciate your coming to back for me, which is why I brought you here actually.
Oh, well, I hate to break it to you, but I have a different point than you in this discussion.
I know. I'm well aware.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I just the reason I wanted to have you is I think we've had this very same discussion before, not to any depth, but we sort of touched on this, and you know this, but for my audience, I would like to sort of reveal that this was originally supposed to be a standalone video in the same vein as that Undertale video, but a lot of the points that I had, I kept kind of circling back on with this sort of idea that, like, if I was having a discussion with someone, these points would make a little bit more sense than just me just like sort of rattling off these ideas in no particular chronological order. So I was really just gonna throw this on the back burner entirely, but Lapis kind of reached out and sort of jokingly was like, "Want to do a podcast?" And I was like, "I have a great topic," and it's kind of open my mind to the idea of other podcast episodes. So hopefully this is not another in a line of KiwiKatGamer blunders where I propose a series and then I only do one. So hopefully you'll see more of these. I'm hoping to do one every 2 weeks, but we'll see about that. Anyway.
Oh, and what I want to say is I think that there's still great potential for this to be a standalone video. Like, you can condense all the thoughts that we've talked about in this conversation and make it into a quicker cut, little funny, lighthearted video. I certainly would watch it because I still like that style. Kiwi, speaking as a person who sometimes watches your content, I like that style of your videos, where you have this long, discussion with yourself.
Yeah, the schizophrenia.
Yeah, I need schizophrenic Kiwi. We could, but these podcasts are a pretty interesting idea too. I'm glad that you were as on board with it as I was.
Yeah. So we're talking about Pokemon. Lapis, why don't you start and tell me about how you grew up with Pokemon? What was Pokemon to you growing up? Sort of this thing I've heard once. Someone said like that the best Pokemon generation to you is the one that was going on when you and since that's kind of like the root of this, I kind of want to start with that discussion of like, what was the generation that you grew up with, and what was Pokemon to you growing up?
Ooh, that's a good question, and I kind of fit that statistic, or however you say it, because I was growing up with Gen 3. It was my first generation. I started out with I found a Game Boy Advance SP at my public library. It was just sitting there on a chair, and I was like, what is this small square device? And I opened it up, and I think it had like Sonic or something in it. It didn't have Pokemon, but I just started playing around with it. I was like, this is cool. It's kind of fun. Fits my pocket. Super nice and mobile. Makes me feel cool. A few days later, my friend had Pokemon Ruby and was selling his Sapphire game so he could trade Pokemon with his friends, and I bought it from him for like $20 or something, because we were 10 and we had no concept of money. Brand new Sapphire game, just $20 or something. I don't remember the exact price, but I bought it that very day. I got to like Watson, the third gym, and I was like so incredibly hooked. Mind you, I had been a Pokemon fan before this. The cards were my very first introduction to the franchise. I found a Vibrava lying on the ground outside of my school, face down. I turned it over, saw that little dragonfly bastard, and I was like, this is the beginning of something beautiful. So then, a couple months later, I found the Pokemon Adventures manga at my library, and at that same library, I came across the Game Boy. So, if anything, it's funny, the video games were kind of one of the last types of media that I was introduced to for Pokemon. It was cards first, manga, then games. My starter, Mudkip, obviously, you gotta go with my boy Mudkip.
Gotta go Mudkip.
Gotta go Mudkip, man. And looking back, Gen 4 is up there with one of my favorites. Platinum is a phenomenal game, but Gen 3 is always gonna be number one for me. So I mean, I was about, I think, like I said, what year was it? Like 2010, I think I found it and started playing it. So it had been out for a couple years. If anything, that's when Diamond and Pearl was starting, I'm pretty sure. So I was kind of late, but I was playing Gen 3 when Gen 4 was popular. That made me cooler than everyone, obviously. If that goes without saying.
I mean, listen, you're talking to the King Contrarian here. That's probably the story of my life. Of like, I was
playing Gen 2 when Gen 8 was popular.
I was like, I was like another Gen. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny that you sort of have like almost the opposite pipeline as me. So I grew up.
Yeah, go ahead. You tell.
I grew up with. We didn't have. We not to say we were poor, but like we didn't have.
What a way to start.
I say that because
Dr. Doofenshmirtz all beginning.
we had.
We grew up poor.
Yeah, we didn't have a Game Boy Advance for a while. Growing up, I only had a Game Boy Color because I'm the youngest of 7. Like my
7.
Like 3 hand-me-downs of stuff is what I had. So I grew up with a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Red, and that was my first, like, before anything, that was my first introduction to Pokemon. And I was extremely like interested in this idea of like, these cool monsters, and I had a really hard time like reading when I was a kid. Not that I was bad, I just like hated it. So like I didn't understand the story growing up. I like nowadays I would probably try to cope and be like, oh, I love the story even then, but like I really didn't. I had no idea what the story was when I was a kid. I just liked the cool monsters. And then we had Pokemon Stadium for the N64, so it was like a pretty big part of my childhood, like just going on the like the Snap thing, the photo
Stadium
booth,
is
the photo booth,
impressive.
Take pictures of the 3D models. I was like obsessed with Rattata, which is funny because that's like not even Not even a Pokemon that I
Okay.
like now, but it was like my favorite
Trying not
Pokemon
to
when I
judge
was
you
a
for
kid.
that. Okay.
Just because it was like a cute little mouse, and I was like, oh,
I love this wonderful magical game full of mythical Pokemon. My favorite, the rat.
yeah,
The rat. Bro just watched Ratatouille.
yeah.
And went straight to Pokemon.
And
Okay.
but I should mention that like at this time, Gen 3 was the Pokemon that was out. I had absolutely zero knowledge of Gen 3. Like to me, Pokemon started and ended at Pokemon Red until like 2009, let's say. And there was this really interesting moment in all this time that I was playing Pokemon Red. I 100% complete that game, by the way. I got all 151 Pokemon. It was nuts.
All hail. All hail.
Yeah,
King Kiwi.
I found, so we had this Game Boy Color, and I was like, you know, playing it. One of my older brothers was like, "Oh, did you ever find Pokemon Gold?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, we used to have a copy of Pokemon Gold, but I don't know where it went." And I was like, "What? Huh?"
What even is that?
Yeah, I was like, "What is that? What do you mean Pokemon Gold?" And he's like, "Oh, like, you know, the one that goes with Pokemon Stadium 2." And I was like, "Pokemon Stadium 2?" So we had this copy of Pokemon Stadium 2 that ironically I had destroyed when I was like a baby. I like spilled water on it because it was an old like N64 cartridge. I spilled water on it, so we just never played Pokemon Stadium 2 because the cartridge was broken.
Dang.
So like this whole time I could have been playing Gen 2. I mean it was nothing to me. Eventually we got
at any moment did you think that it was fake? You're like Pokemon Gold, but it like it's just another.
I just never. There was never like a visual reference for me. Like my older brother would describe it to me, and I'd be like, "That sounds really cool," but like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
How can your child brain even wrap around, comprehend more Pokemon? I already had trouble with the 151 to begin with.
So
I just love it because that era of like that time of your childhood was so much fun. Hearing so many like theories and discussions about certain things. In FNAF, there was a theory that Sparky the dog was in the game. With Dragon Ball, you've got like the discussions in the forums about Super Saiyan 7 and 8 and stuff, where his hair is like the size of Kansas. It's like I just feel like,
I've seen those.
I just feel like when you're and his muscles like so like I had a deep discussion with my friend about. He's like, yeah, no, there's a new form. It's so he gets bigger and bigger, and like by Super Saiyan 10 he can't even move because he has so many muscles. And I specifically remember that because I was like, how is that like desirable at all? Like cool? How is that cool? Yeah, he has so much hair he can wrap himself in it and stuff, and there's like the fan art. It's just so fun to like I can just, you know, if I were you, I could remember that exact feeling when someone's like, have you heard of Pokemon Gold? It's like Pokemon Red, but there's like 151 new ones, and it's like in this new world and stuff. And when you're a kid, you're like, what? It's and half of it is trying to believe it in the first place.
So the other thing was that I wasn't allowed to watch the Pokemon anime. I knew of its existence. I knew the Pokemon anime was a thing, but my mom, even though she was completely fine with letting me play Pokemon, was like, you're not allowed to watch it because you might think that it's real. That was the reason she gave. Mom, if you're watching this, I hate to throw you under the bus like that, but like, why did you say that to me?
No, how dare you? Okay, credit where credit's due. Kiwi's mom, I support you. Okay, you were shielding him from Jesse's tits. You were saving him from the Tentacruel 9/11 episode. Yeah. All right, it's a very nice mother. Good decision. All right, we can't.
but yeah, so I Pokemon was only the game to me. Is what I'm getting around to. Like, it was, even though I knew that it was other things, it was like Pokemon was the game and everything else was just like a spin-off of the game. Whereas in your case, it almost seems like Pokemon was all these things and also a game. Mm-hmm. So I think that contributes to our perspectives. By the time that I played Gen 3, I was like, probably like 10 or 11. We somehow I got my hands. I think another hand-me-down situation. I got my hands on a Game Boy Advance, and a copy of Pokemon Ruby, and played through it. I actually chose Torchic as my first.
That's still respectable.
I was hyped as hell when I got Blaziken. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. You know what it was actually that like I think made me excited to play Gen 3 was I saw like a clip of the anime. Like I can't remember how I did it, but it wasn't through it wasn't strictly on the up and up how I was doing it because it was still banned in my house. But I saw the clip where someone like it's like Blaziken versus Charizard or something. It was like Ash's Charizard versus like some dude's Blaziken.
Okay.
Do you know the scene of, do you know the episode I'm talking about? It was like during one of the championship arcs.
Just like you, I never watched I caught glimpses of it, but I never watched the show either.
It's one of the coolest fight scenes still. Like I still think it's one of the coolest fight scenes.
Infernape versus Electivire?
Yeah, for sure.
But really? Okay, I'll check it out.
Maybe not above.
I did watch Infernape versus Gary's Electivire.
Yeah, maybe not above, but definitely like on par. It was one of the coolest things. Just the way that it ends. Like the ending scene like stuck in my head where like Charizard grapples, like they're grappling. And that was always cool to me because I was like, "Oh, like you can't do that in the game." So like they're like grappling. And
that's your first thought.
Yeah. And so like they're grappling, and he does seismic toss, and like he's like up in the air, like doing the spinny thing.
Oh yeah,
and
I like how the show executes seismic toss.
As he's slamming down the Blaziken like shoots out this fire blast, and it slows down his fall, so that he doesn't take damage from, which is like that's like bullshit in the game.
Yeah,
like that's like if that happened in the game, I'd be like, what the fuck? This is so fucking annoying, but. It was really hype in the anime. Anyway, so I was like, oh, Blaziken is cool. But when I got around to playing it, I was just kind of like, whatever. Like I'm so used to Pokemon Red that like anything that isn't Pokemon Red at that point like almost felt like a parody of Pokemon. Which like I admit that like that has poisoned my perspective for sure.
It is kind of sad for a few points I will get into when we get into the meat of the discussion.
So I played. So then my brother John got a hold of a copy of Pokemon Pearl. I played through that. That was really fun. I liked that. I had a better time with that than Gen 3 for sure. And then that was also about the time that like I started like going over to my friend's house and watching the Pokemon anime. So like I got introduced to that, and then
wow, it's almost like you kind of just like shafted Gen 3. Sounds like in your whole journey.
I did, yeah, I really did. I absolutely did.
And then straight on to 4.
I 100% recognize that like there is a poison in my bias, just because like it just wasn't a time that I spent a lot of time getting engrossed in Pokemon. I 100% concede the point on that.
What a matchup, because you're talking to the person who was like introduced to the games with Gen 3. That's
why I thought this would be an interesting discussion.
Okay, all right, I see.
But yeah, so I played Pearl, and then I saw like commercials for Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And like all of a sudden the memory of my brother telling me about Pokemon Gold comes back to me. And I'm like, no way. I can play Pokemon Gold finally. I've never this is like this mythical like thing to me. I have no idea what is in store for me when I do this. So I begged my mom. I'm kind of embarrassed about it, honestly. How much I begged my mom to let me play this game. But I eventually wore her down, and I got Pokemon Gold. I got Pokemon Heart Gold. I think I got Soul Silver, but whatever. I got the remake games basically, and I got the Pokewalker. Like I got it day one. I got the Pokewalker, and I was like, this is the coolest Pokemon game ever. Like I was super hype about it. I really loved it. Which we'll talk more about that when we get around to talking about the remakes, but I really liked it. And then I'm almost done with the story. And then we were like moving. We were about to move to a new place. We were cleaning out stuff from our house. And inside this like ancient couch that we had, like we had to like cut open the couch because something got stuck in there. We cut it open. Guess what was just like in the fluff of that couch?
Pokemon Emerald.
A cartridge, a Game Boy Color cartridge for Pokemon Gold.
Oh, yeah, there it is. The Chekhov's gun or Schrodinger's cat. I don't know which one.
Schrodinger's gun. When it's
did I say check?
No, yeah, no, you said it right. You said I was trying to make a joke.
Oh, sure, okay.
If there's a gun in the box, you don't know if it's alive or dead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I
correct.
found it, and it had the infamous like memory, like battery memory leak thing. So I could only play like the first. I basically had a demo of the game until my like junior year of high school, where I finally like realized like, wait a second, I have a part-time job. I can buy a watch battery and just put a new battery in, and then just do that whenever this happens again.
Wait, hold on, demo? I thought that would only restrict day and night cycles.
No, so the way that the Game Boy Color cartridge worked back then, it was like a watch battery, and since it was the first time that they ever thought to do something like that, the day and night cycle still worked because it was like keeping the time on the battery, but the battery never. They didn't program like a stop, like how it is now or how it would be now if it still existed. The battery. This is, as I understand, audience. Don't like actually me in the comments. This is not how it worked. This is how I always assumed it worked, and I never bothered to do research to like confirm this. Because it's not that.
So now so that makes him free of criticism, guys. Yeah. Come on. try to keep up. All right. Proceed.
The battery doesn't. It never stopped counting time, even when the game wasn't. And since it was also serving the purpose of being like a save battery, it also never stopped like running the save. So like essentially, whenever you start a save on there and then turn the game off, it still thinks the game is running, and it'll keep sending power to the battery to keep checking the time. Which is not how, like, by the time that it got to Emerald, it stopped doing that. They fixed that problem. But pretty much every cartridge, every like gold and silver cartridge had this problem, and it affected sales certainly.
I cannot wait for someone to say like it's completely wrong.
Yeah,
it's
that's not actually how it works.
Right.
Yeah,
you
that's
have to pin that
yours.
comment.
Yeah.
you have to pin. Yeah.
But yeah, so I like by the time that I finally got to playing Pokemon Gen 2 for real, like on Game Boy, I was no longer in the like window of this is the game that you grew up with. And that was the whole point of that story, was just to say that even though Gen 2 was like a motif in my Pokemon journey, I never actually grew up with it per se.
No.
I used to, and I used to have this opinion. I used to be like a hardcore Gen 1er because I was like, that's the one that I grew up with. But I've since learned the error of my ways and been like, Gen 1 is kind of like lame in some ways.
Yeah, it's the beginning, all right. So obviously they're missing a lot.
But yeah,
mechanics that are introduced later.
So yeah, okay. So tell me more about your Emerald, your Gen 3, your Gen 3 thoughts.
My Hoenn escapades, yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, really, the biggest thing that I always keep coming back to is that Gen 3 can be summarized in a very simple way. It's the concept of a franchise passing the torch is really the make or break point. If you can make a good sequel, that's awesome. You know, that's kind of like bare minimum. The audience should be able to expect you to create a good sequel. They shouldn't have to be like, oh, thank you, this is amazing, this is great. It's like, no, this is like the logical next step in the story. And so realistically, it's just a continuation of the first one, right? So it's like How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, 3, Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, 3, all of these sequels that kind of vary in quality a little bit, at the end of the day, they're still a continuation of that story the writer had since day one. And so it's not really a new idea. You don't have to be too worried. Versus passing the torch and moving on to another, whether it be showrunner, director, actor. I can bring a lot of media as an example. I think the transition from David Tennant to Matt Smith was passing the torch. Even Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant, right? The passing of the torch from even after Tobey Maguire put down Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield picked it up. The idea that Spider-Man still continued on in a really great way. Maybe not as much as Tobey Maguire, but
there's an expectation. Like, I get that. The anticipation of like, how are they gonna match all these good memories that I have about whatever thing? How are they gonna match? I can understand.
Yeah.
That,
well, people, yes, immediately go to a comparison, and not to say that's a bad thing. It's like, what else do you do other than compare what you had versus what you have now? But I like to focus on the people who do pass that torch, because more often than not, I respect them more than the people who made that torch in the first place, I guess. Another great way, I'm going to even use Braveheart as an example, right? William Wallace, the main character, is, of course, this isn't historically accurate, blah, blah, blah. Any history buffs in the comments, don't get at me. That's not the point. The point is just the movie. The theatrical interpretation of the rebellion in Scotland in like 1600s. So William Wallace, right, leads this rebellion. He sparks this flame. He ignites this passion and this drive for independence and freedom in all of the hearts of his brothers and sisters. But at the end of the day, it's still just one guy, and he's the one leading it. And so if he ever leaves, or if he ever, I don't know, maybe he gets like his body chopped up and spread across all of Europe, then it's over and done for. That's why my favorite character is Robert, Bruce, who carries that on. He, that torch was passed on to him, and William left such a big impact that Robert carried that legacy on. That's a character, because Robert didn't initially have those desires for rebellion. He was completely complacent, but he was in such a mature and, I guess, he was just in such a good place mentally that someone could come into his life and convince him to stand up for what's right and to carry this load that William had initially established, right? Robert's, female love interest didn't die. He really didn't have too much stake. If anything, he was living a life of luxury and complacency. So bringing that back to Pokemon was doing great. Gen 1 and Gen 2, they were both doing really good. It's very easy to just kind of like let it go there, right? Gen 2, very easy to write because it's just a logical sequel to Gen 1. You're not really... There's a couple of new elements, new features, but Gen 3 was really the first time, and I can say this about Gen 4, 5, 6, 7, because they all do it, but Gen 3 was the first to really take that leap and execute perfectly a brand new world, a brand new take, a brand new angle on Pokemon, with 100 and something new species, with a brand new map, a new region, new characters, new mechanics, and I'm not going to focus too heavily on the mechanics because that can be written up to just a time argument, right? Like, give it enough time. Let's say Gold came out in 2010. I'm sure they had a lot of things that they wanted to. They were held back on specifically because of game capabilities, for sure. There's a lot of Gen 3 features that they were going to put in Gen 2. They just couldn't. And so Gen 3 comes around, they're like, oh, we can finally do this. So I'm going to do my best to not use those as points, because even without that, I think Gen 3 really just stands on its own as the most well-respected region. And if it's not, it should be, in my opinion, because it did the most for the franchise. The only way a franchise, the longevity of a franchise is solidified is through the creator's ability to, keep that momentum going, keep the ball rolling. Gold was a hard cutoff, right? Gen 2, after that, you can make a trilogy if you want. But
they thought it was going to be the end. When they were making Gen 2, when they were writing up the story, they were like, we don't really know how much longer like Pokemon is going to be a thing. So they wrote the story of Gen 2's game with the expectation, like, this is the end. This is the last Pokemon game. So I can definitely see how, like, they would have a lot more freedom to, like, all right, well, Pokemon is... turns out, guys, Pokemon is actually the most lucrative thing to ever exist.
Actually, Pokemon's just fine.
So we can keep making them forever. So I can definitely see that, like,
right, to
an
see
appreciation
that this is
for the ambition. You know,
yeah,
like, okay, we're not, like, afraid to try wacky things.
Oh, and the intimidation behind, like, following up, right? Like, back to my Doctor Who, the intimidation Matt Smith felt to follow up David Tennant, Andrew Garfield to follow up Tobey Maguire. These legends who, like, forged their respective franchises' path, to be able to even be on the same level as them. And I would argue that in both of those cases, Andrew Garfield is at least on par with Tobey Maguire. Whether Tobey is a little bit better, Andrew's a little bit better, I'm not going to argue that.
Andrew Garfield that's a different,
but I'm not going to argue
episode.
that. Whether Matt Smith, David Tennant, same thing, right? So even with, you know, Hoenn and Johto, even if you want to say they're on the same level, the simple fact that Hoenn can be on the same level as Johto is a lot more impressive, since it had nothing to go off of. It didn't have any Kanto elements to build off of. It just kind of is standing on its own 2 feet, completely built from the ground up by the composer, might I add. He kind of, if I'm not mistaken, the original composer of Pokemon games, he's the one who, like, led most of Gen 3's development. I could be wrong with that, but I'm almost positive. I'm gonna actually, you know, you can just chop this part out. I'm gonna double check that right now.
I'm looking it up right now. Pokemon Emerald Director. Who directed this?
Maybe not Emerald, but, you know, Ruby Sapphire.
Oh yeah, what do you know? You're right.
Oof, okay, I was sweating there for a second. It's very intimidating to bring up a hard fact in front of Kiwi.
I didn't know that. That's a cool piece of trivia.
I have a lot of respect for composers. John Powell, Murray Gold, Hans Zimmer. They're just phenomenal people. So, I mean, it's kind of a cool fun fact to see that he kind of led that charge. But yeah, overall, the fact that Gen 3 can even stand on its own, and in that moment, right, before Gen 4, all we had was 3 generations, 2 of which were kind of synergizing together, helping each other out, and then you've got Gen 3 just a titan on its own, with completely new everything, being able to hold a candle to Gen 1 and 2. I think is really cool, and I have a lot of respect for it because of that, on top of the fact that it was my first one. So
yeah, that's I mean, I can certainly respect, like, I don't want either you or anyone in the audience to, like, perceive this conversation as, like, I hate Gen 3 and anyone who likes Gen 3 is dumb.
No.
I mean, that's part of the reason I made this a podcast, is because as I was going through my points for why I love Gen 2 and why I think Gen 2 is the best, I got the feeling that, like, someone in the comments would be like, this guy just hates Pokemon.
Every other.
I love
Pokemon.
But for Gen 2. Yeah, I love Pokemon. I think Pokemon is awesome. I think Pokemon is awesome, amazing. And even and this is kind of like a sort of backhanded compliment, but, like, even the gens that suck, I'm like, okay, it's still Pokemon, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say a number right now. Maybe later I'll say a number, but Unova.
Oh wow! Really? Wow! What a take! I did not. I 6, maybe 7, but
yeah,
fuck.
I'm not trying to say numbers. I'm not trying to say numbers.
That's interesting. I love how the perspective on that has changed since the new set for the cards came out, Black Bolt and White Flare. Now everyone loves Gen 5 again.
Oh, well, that's definitely a thing that happens, and that kind of goes to that whole thing about, like, the one that you grew up with is the one that you love. We're kind of, like, seeing right now the most unprecedented shift in Pokemon, like, zeitgeist. Because when I was a teenager, it was like the cool thing to hate Pokemon Gen. They'd be like, what the hell? An ice cream Pokemon? A garbage Pokemon? What is this?
A keychain Pokemon?
This sucks! And, like, that was, like, the cool thing. So, like, I really didn't, I did not, I was sort of, in a rare moment in my life, I was not in the minority for disliking something. I was like, wow. Oh yeah, you know, I'm eating good because I can have a conversation with someone and casually be like, I don't like this generation, and they're like, oh yeah, no one does. But now, we're seeing this shift where suddenly you got people who are like, dude, Gen 5 is peak, bro. N is peak, dude.
Oh, don't get Kiwi started on N. Come on.
I'll get to that. There's a section in my notes over here that I have about N. But
I can't wait.
But yeah, and also at this same shift, people started looking back at Gen 2 specifically and being like, this is probably the worst one. And that's actually maybe it was just like the algorithm, you know, maybe it was just like Instagram algorithm, like gaslighting me. But like
could be.
That was what kind of caused me to make this video in the first place, or like start the script of that video in the first place, was because I saw so many people talking shit about Gen 2 for things that like really didn't make sense to me, and also like were kind of skill issues in my opinion.
Interesting.
And I think we'll talk about this. This isn't really in order of anything, but it's not supposed to be.
Well, you're leading.
Yeah. Why do people dislike? I guess for lack of a better word, I don't know how to eloquently put it, but like people talk about Gen 2's Pokemon like they are all the like least creative thing. Like I hear people say stuff like, "Oh, like yeah, all Gen 2's designs are like really boring." And when they give examples, they say like, "Oh, well, like Miltank is just a cow, and Smeargle is just like a cow with like a dog or something, and like Apom is just like a monkey, and like Slugma is just like a pile of sludge. Like what the heck? That's not even creative." And then they'll usually point to like Gen 4, and they're like, look at how
Lucario.
Yeah, look at like Lucario, right? He's like this really he's just really distinct, like you look at his silhouette, and I think this is sort of the direction I was originally going to go in the video. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, because this was one of the points I was like, I need someone to talk about this. My opinion on the matter is I think at some point, probably starting at Gen 3, but I don't think fully taking this form until probably Gen 6. But I think Pokemon shifted away from being like a world of like monsters to a world of like characters.
Companions.
Well, but like, can you imagine Swampert as like a creature that lives out in the world, or is Swampert like, that's Swampert? I know Swampert. That is Swampert. The person Swampert.
This is a very interesting point that you're trying to make, because it's like saying, could you imagine a Kyber crystal, right? A crystal that makes a laser sword. It's like, well,
I can imagine a cave full of crystals. That's not difficult. I can imagine a cave full of crystals easily.
Magical crystals that react on your emotions and moral compass and respond in creating like this light-based sword.
Yeah, they show that in the Clone Wars. They show them in a cave full of Kyber crystals. I can imagine that easily. You never see.
No, then it's rhetorical. Then with that same logic, I can say that yes, I can expect.
But you never see a bunch of Swampert. Swampert is not presented as a creature that lives in the world. Swampert is okay. Bad example, I guess, because it's the starter. So let's go to a different one. Let's talk about what was another one? Let's talk about Hariyama, right? The big dude in Gen 3, the big like sumo wrestler, like punch and bag dude, right?
Yeah.
You mechanically, these things exist out in the world.
Yeah.
These things, like in Victory Road, I think is where they're.
Victory Road, yeah.
But like
Makuhita in
universe,
that one cave.
In universe, can you imagine just seeing this like big dude walking around, and then seeing like 20 of them? That kind of makes you go like, huh? Because when you imagine Hariyama, you're like, oh, it's like the big dude, it's the big punching dude, and like, maybe 4 trainers have one of these, 4 or 5 trainers have one of these. But like, my point is, when Pokemon was like originally presented as a world, it was presented as a world where like people live in these sort of pockets of civilization between this wilderness of these mythical creatures. And these mythical creatures are like difficult to integrate into society, and that's why some of them are rare or some of them are very powerful, and why only trainers really bother having Pokemon. Like, them being sort of wild animal-like is what makes the world make sense. Not that I'm one of these people that like the world doesn't make sense, so like I hate it. Like I can suspend my disbelief to infinity, but I don't know. It just like
well, okay. I see what point you're making, but it kind of falls flat. The point that you're making falls a little bit flat, considering that you just got done talking about from a design standpoint. People are ragging on Gen 2, and you used to rag on Gen 5. I think that every single region has a handful where the designs, if you dissected them, don't make sense in world. You would see a group of wild Machoke in the wild.
That's true.
They even have a belt. How do they get the belt? How do they get that belt?
That is true.
Where did that belt come from? Where's the belt? They have underpants and a belt.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
A group of wild Jinx, that would be terrifying. I would second guess that I woke up in like a dark alleyway in like Vegas rather than in the wild of Pokemon if I encountered a group of Jinx. So it's like, I think every case can be made for each generation. There's some that just, the designs aren't. Horsey is just just a seahorse.
Okay.
But with that being said, I feel like there's some environmental storytelling going on where I don't have to see a group of Swamperts. It doesn't have to be explicitly shown to me in order for me to believe that they'd be out in the wild, because, and this reasoning is enough for me. It might not be enough for some people, but because Pokemon said so, I'm going to believe it, right? They're like, this is a Pokemon. We've seen it in past generations that they roam out in the wild. So I can just assume that there can realistically be a group of wild Swampert out there somewhere. I don't have to necessarily see them. I don't have to see them at all, because not only have we seen them in past generations, I'm sure they, to a degree, Game Freak and any showrunner of any Pokemon show gets tired of like, okay, let's introduce this new region. Let's have a couple shots where they show groups of Pokemon out in the wild. It's like at this point, no, Gen 3, 4, 5, people understand that these are wild creatures. These are wild animals. Instead, let's take it more directions. Let's show Pokemon industrialized. Let's show them in households. Let's show them being docile and domesticated to an extent. I think that's what Hoenn did, because Kanto and Johto already did the wild trope really well. There's no need to further expound on that. If anything, let's take it a new direction. Let's show Pokemon at a different angle. All right.
Yeah, have you seen Pokemon Concierge? It's a Netflix show.
Dude, you can't just start making up words, bro.
You
brought me on this podcast, okay, saying that you would not make up fake words, and here you are.
Is a show about like an island resort.
Okay. Wait a minute, is that the new show? The one that like last year, like 2 years ago? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's really good, and I have no problem in that show accepting a world where like Pokemon are not wild, or them being portrayed as not wild. That's not really my issue. It's that comment is made more out of like I think just more out of like a reminder that like this is where Pokemon came from, and there is such a thing, or at least I believe that there is such a thing as losing sight of that idea. The design of the Pokemon in Gen 5 is not my issue with it, by the way.
It's mine.
I'm fine. I can accept. I can meme about it. I can point fun and say like, haha, garbage Pokemon. But like, that's not really my problem. And again, we'll get to my problem with it eventually. But
eventually.
I think that the people that complain about Gen 2's design are so far removed from the original concept of Pokemon that
Hold on.
to
I
them,
will say before you continue, I will say I'm one of those people. Proceed.
well, what I mean is like they're so far removed from that original concept of Pokemon that like to them a Pokemon looking like it would be a wild creature and nothing more is like strange to them. And they're like, well, that's not as cool as like a Pokemon that is very distinct looking. But I don't think Pokemon
Okay, no,
need
I
to
see
be
your
distinct.
point.
I think Pokemon just need to communicate an idea more than they need to communicate a character. You know what I'm saying? Like Lucario, you look at Lucario and you're like, that's like, I know everything about this furry OC. Like he's cool, he's like tough, he's like a good defender, right? And it's hard to imagine a Lucario not fitting that stereotype. Right? If these Pokemon are supposed to be like our friends, every Lucario is like the cool, silent defender guy.
Well, that's no.
But like you can't say the same thing about like Miltank. Miltank is a cow. Cows don't have a built-in personality trait, you know? You can look at a Miltank and you're like, oh, maybe this Miltank is like friendly and this Miltank is mean, or this Miltank is like completely apathetic. They tried to like mechanically, again, I know you said you didn't want to talk about mechanics, but I would like to talk about mechanics.
Oh, no. The mechanic, not talking about mechanics was in to help, Gen 2, to credit to Gen 2.
They try to circumvent this idea mechanically and weaving mechanics into narrative by adding natures to Pokemon. Like, if you catch a Lucario, oh, it has like a jolly nature. All right, fine. All right, like that would be kind of that's kind of like the immediate headshot to my point. They're like, oh look, see, my Lucario is jolly. That's all right, dude.
Hold on, you're against the idea of Pokemon having different personalities?
I'm against the idea.
I feel like that's pretty believable.
I'm against the idea of Pokemon being designed for a personality. They're communicated as being these like sort of mythical, creatures that have some connection with humans on a metaphysical level. They can have emotions. They can have personalities. What I kind of hesitate to praise is a Pokemon who is designed to have a personality.
Okay.
Like, and I use Lucario. I guess Empoleon is another one of these. Like, it's difficult to look, and I use this word difficult not to say like if it's hard then like it's bad, but I say it's difficult for lack of a better word. It is not what they intended, probably. That you should imagine an Empoleon who does not carry itself like a French emperor, because that's what it's designed to look like. And it's effective. It's an effective design. You look on DeviantArt and you see you type in any Pokemon name past Gen 2, and
they have a vibe about them.
They have a vibe that like is consistent across the thing. Whereas if you look up like fan art of like, I don't know, Bellsprout, just some random Gen 1 or 2 Pokemon, you get a much wider range of how this Pokemon gets presented, because it more effectively captures this original idea of Pokemon, that Pokemon are these mythical creatures that their personality, like your decision to be friends with them is because they had a sort of a matching personality. That's like the subtext of Pokemon, or at least that was to me. Again, this is all to me.
Well, no. That's really interesting, and that I can confidently say I never thought about Pokemon in that sense. But let's pretend all Stantlers are dicks. Okay. Let's pretend all Stantlers are dicks, so you could just never befriend a Stantler. I think that like if anything, Gen 3, 4, 5, that's their solution to that point. Like, there needs to be a variety of expressions within one Pokemon and a variety of personalities, so that certain people can, justify having a Lucario is because I'm a really cheerful, jolly person, but I still really want a Lucario at the end of the day. So I have a jolly Lucario. That's not even mentioning the fact that Gen 2 has itself and Gen 1, they still have cases where you can't tell me all Sudowoodos aren't goofy. All Amphiroses aren't wholesome people who help sailors by being the lighthouse Pokemon.
For sure, 100%.
I feel like most fan art of let's take another one. Let's take
Charizard.
Tyranitar. There isn't a really happy little wholesome Chungus Tyranitar.
Definitely.
You know.
But those kinds of Pokemon, Tyranitar specifically, that was actually a point that I made about it. Tyranitar specifically, him being like sort of this like edgy, you know, spiky. Godzilla. That is like a unique thing that is supposed to attract.
Because he's a pseudo.
Because it's like it's a unique Pokemon, and you're probably only ever gonna have one. Because it's such a pain to like get these. That like there probably is only gonna be one Tyranitar that you ever see yours, or you know the boss. So like that kind of thing. Yeah. And again, we could go in circles about this specific point because you could say like, oh well,
it's an interesting one.
Lucario is like a rare Pokemon, so like Lucario is sort of the same concept, but they just get more and more frequent, and a larger portion of the total Pokemon that fall under that umbrella, in my opinion. Like, okay, let's even skip past Gen 5. Let's talk about Sword and Shield for a second. I hate that game.
Yeah,
that game sucked. I got so bored.
You hate that. You don't want a dog holding a sword in its mouth?
No,
dude.
From like the first Pokemon, they already kind of messed up for me. The really? Wooloo, I was just like, this is such
just a little guy.
This is such like an embarrassing,
dude,
like thing to me, because like they really were like, we got to make the most pathetic sheep, and that's all it will ever be. These are literally like, they're so fucking like worthless and pathetic that we kick them around for sport. Like that's funny. That is such a far cry though from this idea that like Pokemon are like these mythical things that we treat with respect and all this stuff. To like, yeah, we just like have a million of these sheep guys and we just like kick them the fuck around. We paint them like soccer balls and kick them around. So like Pokemon, I don't know. And again,
but hold on. Okay, wait a minute. I don't think that is a commentary of like how the writers and creators of Pokemon feel about the world. That is that specific region playing the role that they were designed to play, which is a more industrialized, apathetic towards Pokemon world where, we've seen 8 or 9 gens at this point. It's another set of 151 Pokemon. Yeah, we kick around a few. It's like lightning bending was so like idolized and worshipped, and like, whoa, it is incredibly impressive if you can wield it and use it effectively. And then Legends of Korra industrialized it. Now it's your 9 to 5. You're like plugging it into the you're a power outlet. You're just plugging yourself into like this generator. I think that's just a natural progression for any world that's lived for so long, playing that same trope of everything's mythical. Careful, if you got in the wild, you're gonna get like your mind exploded by an Alakazam.
Yeah, for real.
Eventually, that's fun for an extent, but eventually I feel like a natural progression or an evolution for a franchise such as this is humans with their innate desire to conquest, control, dominate, spread their influence, just kind of human nature. Yeah, realistically, by 9 generations, humans are going to be more in control than the Pokemon at this point, where like, they're pets, they're companions, we use them to fight and train. They're just tools in our arsenal rather than these mythical beings that you wouldn't even approach as Zapdos because its wings can generate thunderclaps. Versus now, you can attempt. We've had so many years to study and adapt and grow to where you can hold your own against a couple stronger Pokemon, and we have ways of adapting and ways of navigating around of Pokemon. Because imagine Pokemon are if Pokemon were still calling the shots constantly, always, no matter what. Like, I think the whole point of the Pokemon series is humans learning how to stay on par with Pokemon, because if Pokemon were calling the shots and above, then, you know, humans would either be dead or extremely primitive, because Pokemon would keep shutting them down every time they tried to grow and evolve, and there'd be no industrial revolution, nothing. Like, I feel like, you know, logically, humans are innately going to try and match Pokemon's
That's definitely a good point. I'll
Master Balls were created probably as a result of that.
Yeah, I'll tell you this
in response
for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll definitely concede the point on this, that I would be much more willing to accept that as a reason for like Pokemon becoming more distinct and like character-y. If when they did a Kanto remake, because they're always making them, they should make a remake where we see like Kanto not in 1996, like a Kanto that is a stark contrast from like the 1996 Pokemon world, where everyone sort of reveres Pokemon, and we see the world kind of shift towards, all right, everyone just has like, you know, they're just like Machokes walking around carrying boxes, and like we got Magnemites plugged into everyone's outlets. You know,
and Hoenn opens up with Machokes helping you move into your house.
For sure. They definitely do. But I would like to see specifically, just for my peace of mind. I'm sure that no one else would like benefit from this but me. But me personally would be willing to concede this point. If we could see that Pokemon being sort of industrialized was a thing across the world. Like, because we see that in Kanto there's this idea of like, okay, we respect Pokemon. If I saw that like everyone is doing it, I'd be like, okay, then I'm fine with the idea that, you know, we're kicking Wooloos around for fun.
Well, hold on. I think that's partially what new generations are designed to do. They're to show the industrialization. We don't need to see the specific 151 Pokemon being domesticated in order to believe it. New generations come along so that we can see a new take and a fresh perspective on Pokemon. And every region, there's a couple of like universal ones like Machop and Pikachu and Zubat. And, you know, those help keep that sense of familiarity.
But Gen 2 sets the precedent that we have seen. Because Gen 2 almost does do that. When you go back to Kanto in Gen 2, you see that, like, the Viridian Forest gets fucking cut down. You see that Mount Moon gets, like, you know, kind of leveled. And you see that people just in general are kind of, you know, more laissez-faire about how they talk about Pokemon. Still with like a reverence though. Still with like a reverence that like all the old people are still like, oh, we still love Pokemon. But like again, in Sword and Shield, you got this old dude who's like, yeah, I have a Pidgeot. And it's like, okay. that's like a bird that's like twice your size. That thing's like
buddy.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm willing to move on from that point. But I wanted to discuss the design of Pokemon and my philosophy that I think Pokemon should look more animal-y in general, if they're gonna look like animals at all. But you mentioned Gen 5, you mentioned Sword and Shield, and you mentioned like the industrialization being kind of the plot. And I think now is a good time to talk about the bad guys of the game. Generation.
I was just gonna ask about that.
I would love to hear your thoughts on if Aqua and Magma contribute to your love for Gen 3, or if you think that some other evil organization is better.
Yeah. Oh, I love them, and I would be so bold as to say they are better than Team Rocket, especially considering Heart Gold Soul Silver Team Rocket. I feel like. It was just
they
ass.
suck.
I didn't like all the other leaders, like whoever they are. Not only were their designs kind of weird, but they just subtracted from Giovanni's intimidation. But point being, Team Rocket versus, if I were to compare, and even Team Galactic too. In general, you've got this Cyrus who has a scope so large that the average 12-year-old is not only gonna be unable to wrap their head around it, but they're not gonna care. They're gonna be like, I don't even know what that means. I just know I want to catch the giant centipede. I want to catch the centipede Satan, and have him fight, the god of all Pokemon stuff. Giovanni, right? It's a crime syndicate, right? Adults will be like, that's cool. That's realistic. That's a nice. I appreciate the real approach to Pokemon, that someone's in it for the money. I like that it's basic and simple. For a kid, you're gonna fly over the head for the opposite reason. It's gonna be like, okay, well, that's boring. Team Aqua Magma strikes that perfect tone of, this is just ridiculous enough to be perfect for the Pokemon world, right? We're already in a world full of fantastical, whimsical creatures that you have to suspend your disbelief to enjoy. And so why not pair that up with a villainous organization that has this insane goal that has catastrophic results on the world? We want to expand the sea. We want to expand the land. That's not only funny, right? But as a result of that, you've got wackier, more outlandish characters that are bolder personalities that you're more likely to remember. Right, you're a lot more likely to remember them because they're insane. These people are insane.
Shout out to that time that I made that Pokemon Origins abridged where I voiced Archie. That was a fun time.
What? You need to show me that. I don't know what.
I'll send it to you. But
you send me that. You dubbed over Archie.
I did, yeah. It was
it's funny. I love both of them. They're the type of guys you really want to sit down and be like, let me explain to you the cycle of water, the condensation, evaporation, right, precipitation, and that's what a villain in a world like Pokemon should be. In a world, in a different world, maybe I would have vibed more with Team Rocket, and I still do. And that's not to say that I don't love Team Rocket. They're iconic, and I don't love Team Galactic to an extent. I like their admins. I think they're really cool, and I think they have a lot of depth to them, especially in the manga, that I think they execute admins the best, like right-hand men, like henchmen to the boss. I think Team Galactic is nice. I like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn a lot. Had a huge crush on Mars when I was a kid. We have to go over Best Girl also, because that really helps my point in the next point. But I'm just gonna say, to like conclude it, I think Team Magma and Aqua, especially in Emerald, I feel like in Ruby and Sapphire, having them be two different antagonists kind of muddy the waters, but Emerald is perfect because you're kind of struggling against both of them, and it's a lot easier way to tell the story. It's more natural, I guess, that you can see both sides of it, because I don't think one should be inherently good or bad. But I think their overall concept is evil, fundamentally evil, but still has that aspect of wacky and zany that Team Galactic, Team Rocket, Team Flare, they kind of miss, because they either take themselves too seriously, to where kids and adults are kind of turned off by it because it's too edgy. It's like, this is Pokemon, man, lighten up. Or it's too boring of a concept. Like, Galactic, I want to just kill everything and create a new world. That's kind of been done before, right? But to utilize the power of the legendaries in your own idea. Like, we want this legendary, not just for power, not for money, but to do what this legendary does best, which is expand the sea or expand the land.
I will say that I think, and this is a point I was going to get to eventually, but I think now's a good time to bring it up, that starting with Gen 3, the formula became, how can the evil bad guys use the box legendary? They kind of, that started with Gen 3, because Team Rocket had nothing to do with Ho-Oh and Mew at all. Like, they had nothing. They had nothing to do with it.
Before you finish that, I do want to say, are you saying that in the sense that it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm saying, I'll get to how I feel about it eventually, but right now, for what I'm saying right now.
I'll get to it. Okay, yeah, fair.
Because it's a different point. Okay. I think that because Gen 3 set that formula, they did it by far the best. Because I agree. I think Team Magma and Team Aqua being just like these morons who like are so
pretty much.
Like, it's like both of them independently learned about their corresponding like organization. Like, they actually weren't extremists until they learned about the other one. And then they were like, I fucking hate these guys. And it just like escalated up to the point where they're like, I'm gonna get like the god of the ocean to just like swallow the world just to spite this guy. I think that's hilarious. I think that is the best evil organization in a world where like Pokemon evil organizations are not supposed to be taken seriously. Because I don't think they are. Past Gen 3, I don't think they are. Ever.
Right.
I think they are intentionally made to be like kind of an anime moment for the player. Because it's kind of an anime. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, you know, team what's next? Plasma? Is that 4? Or is that
Plasma,
5?
yep. No, that's 5. Galactic is 4.
I think Galactic, it's cool. I like all the like Judeo-Christian imagery. I think that's a cool idea. I can't really get behind their mission statement. I really cannot get behind the fact that he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like restart the whole world in my image. Who are you, dude? You're like 24. You're like 24 years old in canon.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Bro, it's just, I mean, Fanon Cyrus is just a depressed incel who like has never felt the embrace of a woman.
Like there is nothing that this dude has said or done that has convinced me that like it's even a good idea. Where it's like that's different from, you know, in Gen 3, it's presented as like, yeah, this is a silly idea. So like if you agree with
and you
them,
see the other side a lot in the game throughout your journey. Yeah. You see the opposing forces like, why do you want to expand the land so much? Because there's some goobers out there who want to expand the scene. We fucking hate them.
yeah. So it's like
it's great. It's cinema.
It's nice that like if you do side with Aqua or Magma, it's like you go in accepting that it's silly. But like someone who would like to roleplay or like make a fan fiction where they agree with Team Galactic's vision, it's like how can you even bring yourself, you know, how could you possibly take this story? You get to Gen 5, and they're like, alright guys, it's like, what, 2014? You know, kids are like edgy these days, so let's make like this sexy man, this Tumblr sexy man named N.
Here we go with N. Is this where it begins?
This is where it begins. Let's make this Tumblr sexy man who like is like bi. You know, we're not allowed to say that he's bi because it's 2014. But whether you pick a girl or a boy, he's like, I want to take you on this Ferris wheel ride. And then he like tells you do you remember that? He takes you on this Ferris wheel and he's like, no, it was just like during the festival,
flawless execution.
He's like, I want to take you on this merry-go-round. And then he tells you about like his like, I have a special connection to Pokemon, and I'm like, you are this fucking guy. And then Team Plasma, their whole thing is like, oh well, we want Pokemon to be liberated or enslaved, depending on whether you have black or white. But we feel that Pokemon, the lot of Pokemon right now is not as it should be. Which is why, regardless of our opinions on the matter, we have Pokemon and we are going to fight with Pokemon. Huh? Like, and I'm aware that like that's the Reddit take, right? That's like every single Redditor is like, you say you don't want to enslave Pokemon and yet you have Pokemon in your party and make them fight. Curious. I don't really know how to avoid that statement other than saying like, well, yeah, why are they having Pokemon? They shouldn't have Pokemon. Their whole thing.
Yeah, just because it's a common like talked to death point doesn't make it.
Yeah, that's still kind of a valid point. Why do they have
still a valid
Pokemon?
point, right? Yeah, for sure.
And N, people talk about N like he's like the first time that Pokemon has like tried to tell a story that was serious. And I would argue that like the story that N presents is one of the least serious times, or at least one of the times that I have taken Pokemon the least seriously, because his whole thing is around like, you love your Pokemon and that's why you're stronger. and this is the first time that like anyone has had this revelation. You know, we have to reject the false dichotomy of Pokemon being servants or your friends, and embrace that like Pokemon are a thing that live in the world. And you would think that like that point would make me happy, given that I just had that whole thing about like I think Pokemon should be seen as these mythical creatures. But it doesn't. It makes me very angry that he says that. Because no shit. Like Professor Oak told me that back in Gen 1. Why are you treating this like it's like the first time that anyone has had this revelation?
It's a brand new concept.
Yeah. I don't respect you because you like make out with your Pokemon or something.
I do. What a trailblazer. Oh,
yeah.
Man, he really set the
I have no respect for N, and he really at no point demands my respect. And he kind of just goes about the whole time being like, "Oh, aren't I like so cool and like mysterious?" And I'm like, "I don't care about this dude." And the entire plot of the evil organization revolves around N. Like, it revolves around the expectation that I am going to like N, and I don't like him. So, like, how do you expect me to walk away from it?
If you don't like N, Black and White kind of falls flat.
It just makes the plot fall flat. Like, I have nothing against. I think the world is fine. I think some of the Pokemon designs are cool. But the story, and also, Gen 5 makes the most use of its story. Gen 5 takes the longest amount of time to tell its story. And it's probably the worst story. I'm gonna be honest, like, this is where people start throwing tomatoes at me, but like,
damn,
it's probably the worst story. It's not even.
I'm raising my hands and slowly backing away off the stage. Like, yeah, I never got invested in Gen 5, and maybe I'm a product of your point. Like, I just, I kind of just put it down after such bangers that were Gen 3 and 4 back to back. Gen 5 was really like, I was really critical of it, and so because it had set up my expectations. Like, this is the type of quality you should expect from Pokemon. So when that started dipping, I was like, I'm gone. Same with a lot of franchises, Doctor Who being one of them. I'm trying not to talk about too much.
We'll do an episode. We'll do an episode. I'll have my wife.
Really? Do you promise?
I promise. I'll have my wife on. She's watched through a lot of it, so she has opinions about it than I do. Probably.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, and then yeah, Gen 6. I think they kind of were a little high off their fumes about like we can make stories that are like deep and people will like it. So they made the whole like Lysander, I think is the name of the bad guy of that one. He's like, oh, I'm like trying to make the world beautiful by killing everything or keeping everything alive, depending on which game you have. And I was like, whatever, dude. Like at this point, like I just don't, whatever. And then Sun and Moon tried to revolutionize. They tried to go back to formula because they were like, okay, people are kind of getting sick of like us trying to tell deep stories. Let's go back to this idea that like there are two evil organizations that are kind of at odds with each other, and that's where you get Team Skull and what are they called? The fucking like Ultra Society or something. Whatever. They try to go back to form. That's fine. People really like Guzma, and they really like the sort of like hoodlum aesthetic. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's not as bad as Gen 5.
Going back to Goofy.
Yeah, they tried to go back to formula, where they're like, let's make like a goofy organization that like don't have to worry about it being too deep. You can sort of go back to enjoying it. And then by Sword and Shield, like it's just a joke. It's just like, I'm trying to I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die. He summons Eternatus, which is like the fucking Doomsday. He summons like the Book of Revelations to kill everyone because he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm going to make everyone's electricity bills go up for money, and that's it. That's all his like. He has no depth at all. They were just like, fuck, trying to give anyone depth. Here you go. Here's a evil businessman. And then I've never played Scarlet and Violet. I have no interest in playing Scarlet and Violet.
But the Switch 2 cleaned it all up and polished it, and now it doesn't have any frame drops or like lag or something that you'd expect from, you know, something that you'd already expect from the game anyway.
I don't care.
Like that was the funniest part to me. Just being like, oh, Scarlet and Violet runs smooth now. I'm like, oh, great, it's doing the thing that it was supposed to do when it was released. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
you have fun with that, buddy. You have fun with that.
I have no interest.
You should have color in the lines at school today, okay?
And mechanically, also, going back to mechanics, I think mechanically, the later gens are just too like difficult to follow, and that's me sort of like revealing myself as like a dumb like Gen 1er to say like, back in my day, Pokemon had like Pokemon stats were like types were physical or special based on the type of the attack, and like now I have to read terraforms, and I have to
There was no Lopunny, there was no Mega Gardevoir.
Yeah.
You just had Vaporeon.
You had Vaporeon.
Back in my day.
All right,
easy.
We're getting to the Coomer corner. Just give me a second. We're getting to the Coomer.
Let's get back out of it.
Yeah, let's eat our vegetables first.
I'm retreating it, yeah.
But yeah, so I know you did. I know you dislike Team Rocket. You kind of led with that.
Well, okay, no, let me, because dislike's a strong word. I just never, you know, I never saw their appeal too much. It's the same concept of Galactic, like I said, on the other side of the spectrum. It's like, Cyrus, you're like way too big. Rocket, you're like kind of just small. It's like, why wouldn't you utilize your given legendary like Magma and Aqua? Why wouldn't you think bigger than just a crime rig? And then Cyrus, why would you think so big to reset the whole freaking world?
That's to a point later. To explain that, there's a point later. But the thing I like, I don't think I dislike Rocket. The thing that makes me think Rocket is like probably the best, in my opinion. The best like one to be taken seriously is that it does not utilize Pokemon as like their central thesis, I guess. Like, it's silly to me. The reason that Gen 5 is silly to me is because like here are these like, you know, this galactic wizard looking ass dude being like, I think all Pokemon should live in freedom or slavery, depending on which game you bought. Team Rocket represents a world that embraces the idea that other than the fact that there are these mythical creatures that exist, it's still supposed to be the same world as like ours. It could be our world, other than the fact that there are these Pokemon. A regular ass crime syndicate that actually does normal crimes and threatens to kill people and steal stuff is a much more compelling story to me than one that doesn't embrace the fact that it's silly to have Pokemon in general. Like, that's why I love Magma and Aqua, because it's like, yeah, they're fully embracing the idea that like it's really silly that we have this Pokemon that can just cover the earth in water with a snap of its fins, and it's over.
Snap of its fins.
Yeah. So like, Rocket, I think, strikes a really good balance for me that it is a world that humans still live in. And that, like, Pokemon are just kind of a thing, a tool that you can use. And they also rep the struggle of using Pokemon when you are not a good person. Because, again, this idea that, like, Pokemon are supposed to be kind of these metaphysical representations of like, your respect for the world. And Team Rocket, they have, like, you know, powerful Pokemon, quote-unquote, but the idea that you're supposed to get from the end of it is that it's not whether the Pokemon is powerful, it's how you actually treat them and how you live in the world and how you treat the world around you. And that's what makes Giovanni step down as you're fighting him, because he's like, I lost. And the reason I lost, I can see, is because you went through the whole world. Again, you have to imagine, like, in theory you were doing this, even though there's no mechanics, like there's no Pokey-a-me or whatever the fuck. But you were befriending your Pokemon. You were facing these trials, these physical trials that had you like scaling mountains and swimming across the oceans. And you did all this stuff with your Pokemon and you trusted them. Giovanni has like all of these really rare and like, you know, high stat in theory, because Gen 1 is a buggy mess, so like Rhydon is worthless basically. But in theory, in universe, you have to sort of look in universe. He has these rare Pokemon that you've never seen that, you know, are powerful. But because he doesn't love his Pokemon, that's the reason that you beat him. And that's why he steps down and the organization itself sort of falls apart, because without the head, there's nothing to sort of keep it together. And the rest of these grunts, they don't get it. They don't have the like natural charisma to be the boss, and they don't have the ability to like train their Pokemon to become powerful like Pokemon evil organizations. So they're just kind of like, that's it. And that's a really realistic way to sell the idea to a kid that one single child destroyed an entire evil organization. Like, that story is the only way that you could reasonably say one 10-year-old beat an entire organization, because he loved his Pokemon and trusted his Pokemon to carry him through. That sells the story that Gen 5 was trying to sell a million times better than just like hammering you in the face with this Tumblr pretty boy going, I love my Pokemon and I make out with my Zoroark behind closed doors. In Gen 2, you see Rocket trying to, I'm talking about the Game Boy game.
Yeah.
You see Rocket trying to like reorganize itself. And they are like embarrassingly bad at it. I think it is, I love it. It's probably my favorite like story in that game. Well, second favorite, I guess. Gen 2 has like 4 story threads that make up the main story. And the Rocket storyline is really funny to me because it is kind of the perfect like antithesis to the plot of the main thread. The sort of the main thread follows this kid who, just out of the kindness of his heart, not because of any like wanderlust, goes out on this adventure, and some other stuff happens. But the main thread follows going on this adventure, and like along the way, seeing these bits and pieces of what happened in Gen 1 sort of coming to fruition. Like you see, like they'll mention like, oh, there used to be this like really powerful trainer who existed and like beat all this stuff. And like you hear about Team Rocket and like how one kid beat Team Rocket, and like you eventually go over to Kanto, and especially over there, like you see how the world has shifted. So if you're someone who was very familiar with Kanto, you're like, oh, this wasn't there before, or oh, this person is new. You see like Viridian Forest get chopped down, and you sort of see how the world is like moving towards a state of change. Not necessarily decay, because some things do get better, but it's like it's moving towards a finality. And when you get to Pallet Town, especially, this is like when you realize that this is what the story is going to be. When you get to Pallet Town, and you're like, just out of curiosity, let me go to like the old house. You talk to the mom, who is the mother of your character from Pokemon Red, and she's like, my son, like one day, left, became the champion, and never returned home. And I worry about him. Or something. She says something about, like, I miss him, or something like that. And so you're like, that's like, really profound. You, as a player, are like, whoa, that's really profound. As in-universe, that's probably like, oh, that's kind of sad. But like you as a player are like, that was me. I did that. I like changed this world because I was the thing that moved this guy to do all this stuff to change the world. And eventually, spoilers I guess if you haven't played this far, eventually after you beat the Elite Four and you beat the Kanto gyms, you go up to the top of Mount Silver, which is like the hardest thing that any trainer has ever does because it's all these, you know, strong Pokemon. And you get to the top, and there you see him, Red, from the original game. And you fight him. You see he has nothing to say to you. He's the strongest trainer in the game. You fight him at the top of this hill. You beat him, you know, eventually you beat him. He has the strongest Pokemon. It's like, it was crazy for me when I first did this. But I beat him, and he disappears. He has nothing to say to you, ... Screen wipe, disappears, and you're left alone on the top of the mountain. Roll credits. The thesis of the game is that all things have to come to an end. Team Rocket Team Rocket represents the antithesis of that story because they are trying so desperately to hold on to Team Rocket's heyday, quote unquote. They are trying so desperately to like do these evil things and like, you know, they like take over the tower, they're like holding people hostage, and they get demolished. They like don't even stand a chance. They are and the sort of step one of their plan, by the way, is to call out to Giovanni, who like was on record saying, I am never going to make Team Rocket again. There is nothing that could convince me to make Team Rocket again. Then you have all these people that are like, please, Giovanni, please, I need to be Team Rocket. And,
I need to be evil.
And they get demolished, granted not by one kid, like last time, Lance, which is that alone was like a pretty hype moment, where you see Lance, and Lance shows up and like solos the entire dungeon. But a kid still beats them, and they're just kind of like, what do we do? Like, we're trying so hard to keep this thing that should have ended alive, and they kind of, that sort of undertone of we're trying to keep this thing alive and running, sort of perpendicular to the main theme, the main story, which is that all things end and it's okay that all things end. That just, it paints such a perfect picture for me. That like, it all makes sense. It all ties together, and especially poignant when you consider that they thought that Pokemon was over. They were like, this is the story of Pokemon. This is it. Mm-hmm. You beat Red on the top of the thing, story's over. I just, there is no evil organization that propels the story in an equivalent way. Like, even Magma and Aqua, who, like, they are the main story. They don't do as good a job of telling the main thesis of that generation. Which, the main thesis of Gen 3, as I understand it, is that, you should be willing to explore the world. And that all corners of the world are equally deserving of respect. Because that's I mean, they kind of do. But like that's sort of, Gen 3's map represents a lot of like different extremes.
I mean, yeah. Well, here's what I'd say about the thesis of Gen 3, which is one of the reasons I love it the most, is because I feel like it focuses on nature and relationships the most. The depth to which friendships and rivalries and just all across the board relationships are just much deeper and richer. From what I can see, you've got your rival, which isn't just some random nobody. It's like, not saying that Blue isn't or Silver wasn't, but the daughter or son of the professor, and then you are the daughter or son of a gym leader, adds for some really interesting, compelling dynamics. And I was gonna mention before about how a lot of points change if we consult different media, depending on what media we're going off of. points could be wildly different, because if we pull in the manga, if we pull in the TV show, etc., etc. So it's really hard. But I'm assuming up until now we've just stayed on the games.
Yeah.
We've got Wally, a kid we've never seen someone like this. He could have very easily have been our rival, as easy as Sapphire or Ruby could have been. But instead, he's a kid who we help out. They made a whole storyline about a kid with an illness who's also in his Pokemon journey. We see his whole arc. There's a lot of interesting relationships that go on in the Hoenn region, pairing up with or kind of like hand in hand with the fact that it's like a really nature-oriented, eco-friendly region. That was really kind of refreshing. We obviously haven't seen that before. It's not to say Kanto and Johto weren't like regionally like beautiful with their own landscapes, but Hoenn doubled down and focused on it specific, especially when you're looking at mechanics like weather introduced in the game. In battle, the legendaries revolve around weather. It's nature and relationships, friendships. I think that's my takeaway from the Hoenn region. I think the sad reality when it comes to video games is that you're limited in your storytelling abilities. There's only, if you try to cram in too much, then you just get people spamming the dialogue box. If you try to integrate it through the battle or through something else, then people are gonna get bored of the combat, because like every time I try to do a cool fight, I have to go through dialogue. So it definitely limits you, because people's main focus with Pokemon, I'm not gonna say with video games in general, because it's not the case most times, but most of the times is to be entertained and have fun. I would say that there are some exceptions where you play a game to feel a certain emotion because it's so heavily, maybe like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's not, you're gonna have fun, but you're not there just to have fun. You're there to follow this story. And with Pokemon, I think it's more geared towards, entertainment, having fun. I'd say the Mario franchise is like that. The Sonic, for the most part, because they have some pretty in-depth, complicated stories. It's to be entertained, and so I think the antagonistic force of the Hoenn region understands that better, because the majority of people, Kiwi, they're just not going to sit down and be able to, and not even suggesting that they have the capability to understand it in the first place like you do. Like people who appreciate writing and storytelling, that doesn't mean I'm catering or I'm trying to be a voice for the Neanderthals who like the mouth breathers who like just spam Earthquake. I'm not trying to advocate for them. I'm just, to a degree, of course, this was written with the story in mind, and you should appreciate the story. But I feel like simply because Team Aqua and Magma are simpler, I think they're the perfect amount of complex for a game such as Pokemon, which is why I also talked about the media, because in Pokemon Adventures, I think Rocket works tremendously well. It's perfect because it's the perfect medium for them to really live out what you just described. The games just, you don't have a lot of room to do that, and a lot of what you said is either after extensively looking into it, extensively replaying it, or even just interpretation. A lot of the times it's just a bad guy you have to defeat, and so I feel like just Team Aqua fills that role better because it's not trying to do anything revolutionary or anything too crazy. And that's not to say you can't do that if you wanted to. Like I said, Galactic Plasma, they try to do that. They try to do a giant scope, a crazy ginormous scope, but they kind of fail for the reasons that you explained. But Team Aqua got just that sweet spot of it's just funny and ridiculous enough to keep you engaged, just evil enough to make them look like bad people, because that would be a terrible thing if that were to happen. Natural disasters are not fun, and it's a perfect amount where they bit off the exact amount that they can shoot to where people of all ages can enjoy this game. I don't think it's just kids who are like, oh, the water. I still think it's a really great villainous what's it called,
organization
motive, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like bringing back Pokemon Adventures, I bring it up multiple times. You should link a video in this video about Pokemon Adventures. I'll send you the link. It goes over the series in detail. Listeners, if you haven't heard or read it, I highly encourage you. It's you can read it online. You can buy the physical copies on Amazon. It's Pokemon Adventures. I think, in my opinion, it is the best interpretation of the franchise, and it is the best lens to look at the Pokemon world through. Better than the TV show. Oh, much better than the Ash is like the lowest to the bottom feeders for me. But it's better than the games. It's better than the cards. Adventures is just phenomenal. But bringing that up because Team Aqua and Magmar are even fleshed out to where they still retain that core motivation of taking over the land and sea, but somehow they're able to make it realistic and give them a few more villainous angles. Archie specifically has a really cool character arc. He comes back and he fights Red, and that's amazing. You're like, holy crap, the crossover goes crazy. But all in all, I just think probably my biggest point would be I think Team Aqua and Magma bite off the exact amount that is good for a Pokemon game. At the same time, though, Team Rocket had 2 games to really breathe and flesh out that story. So I think that it worked really well in their favor to bring the same villainous group over and to show the difference with Giovanni gone, with that vision lost. I have to credit where credit's due. Rocket's far from the worst villainous organization. It's probably my number 2, if not number 3.
I dislike, just out of principle, after everything I just said about like how important it is that Rocket ends. I categorically despise that the DLC for Sun and Moon has the Rainbow Rocket, which is led by Giovanni, running an evil organization.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, guys, back it up. We're not doing that. This isn't canon. I don't care. Canon is whatever I say it is. So how do you feel about just generally? I'm sure you love the music of Pokemon. Everyone.
Oh, dude, Gen 3's music is such a banger.
Yeah,
dude.
you like all the horns.
Dude, I love the trumpets. Give me the trumpets.
The meme of like
Gabriel.
The meme of that
the kid on the street. Yep. Yeah,
it's a good one. Yeah. So
it's a great way to visualize.
Have you given a lot of thought as to like, and this is a very like Kiwi question, but have you given thought to like why the music is so effective?
Well, they obviously had more capabilities. They had more. They had access to more intricate sounds because of the technological advancements. It's one of them, but I think 2 is because of the feeling you get in the battles. I certainly have a different feeling when I'm in the Gen 3 Elite Four versus Gen 1 and 2. Gen 1 feels majestic and grandiose, and like you're cool, you're awesome. This is great. Gen 3 feels like there is just this heavy is the best way to describe it. It just feels heavy and like so much pressure and like there's just so much weight to each battle, and that has a lot of things to do with or it has a lot of what's it called? There's a lot of contributing factors to that. I'll start with the easiest one. Just the physical appearance alone of most Gen 3 Final Evolution Pokemon are just heavy, menacing creatures that just are terrifying. Like, you've got Walrein, you've got Salamence, you've got Metagross, like, you've got Armando, the one I called Armaldo for the longest time. Even Melodic is pretty big. You've got the legendaries, the 3 Reggies, but you don't see them in the Elite Four. You've got Flygon. I love Flygon. You've got is it Cacally? It's the one after Lily. But Wishcash, I mean, even Lunatone and Solrock, they're just these like hulking, just stone beasts that you fight. Everything about it is Crawdon screams intimidation, just like this massive like opposing force. And then the trumpets perfectly convey that feeling like tenfold. Just this mighty, grandiose, heavy battle with these trumpets to like complement it. the health pools are big, the damages are huge, right? Gen 1 and 2, they focus on making you feel like the hero, and this is awesome. You're fighting these enemies that you're fighting, this Dragon Master Lance. It feels epic and grandiose. And not to say vice versa, Gen 3 doesn't feel grandiose and Gen 1 doesn't feel heavy and massive, but in vice versa, Gen 3 almost approaches these battles like, okay, you fought Elite Force before. We're not going to cater to you so much this time around. We're not going to be like, you're the best, you're awesome, you're like this super kick-ass main character. Gen 3 feels a little bit more like there's a little bit of indifference with how you feel in battles. You're like, I'm just another person trying to do this this Elite Four gauntlet, and it's a little harder. Even the gym leaders too. I know Winona it was really tough for me. Her Altaria, a dragon type, is, and you're gonna be like, there's a whole gym dedicated to dragon. I know. In Johto, the fights were memorable. They felt very like they had a lot of weight to them. Steven was terrifying, and the music just really took that concept and ran with it, I guess.
Yeah. So it's. I can definitely see how that comment about like you're just another trainer. I do kind of, looking back, I think I do get that. I do get that feeling like when I think about the Gen 3 Elite Four. I do get.
I think the world being bigger helps with that, but yeah, I kind of like that aspect. Especially since it would be weird if they tried to, it's like logically, why don't you go for another perspective, another point? And it's ironic to say that, even though you're the son of a gym leader, so you're not just any other trainer.
You're kind of a nepo baby in that game.
But you still can't help but feel a little bit like that with their indifference towards you in the dialogue. You're not, Red, this like icon, because no matter how, Ruby or however you want to call him, I think that has like Brian or something.
Brian. Brian.
It's Brian, really? Oh, that's so dumb.
Is it Brian? It's gotta be Brian.
Something like that. But you're not Red anymore, right? I think that thought alone carries into the battles and the music and everything. You're not Red anymore.
Brendan. Brendan is his name, not Brian.
That's one step up from Brian.
Shout out to Brian's. Shout out to all the Brian's.
I guess. But yeah, you're not Red anymore. Basically, it's you might be the son of a gym leader, which is still pretty cool, but you're not Red, and you have a gauntlet of brand new challenges to face and monsters to tackle. You've got Wailord, You've got Camerupt, Aggron, dude. Aggron is sick as hell. You got Slacking, Exploud, Hariyama. So many just big threats physically and visually and metaphorically. I just love it. It makes it feel so much personal.
It's interesting that your perspective on Gen 3's or Gen 1's music is that it feels grand. Because I did not get that impression. I got the impression that it is intentionally common, I think is the word. But again, I guess I'm thinking of when I think of Pokemon music, I think of like the music that plays when you're in the cities and when you're like walking. And I think your
I like that
idea of Pokemon music is the fight music, which is valid. I mean, that's definitely a valid thing, and that I think that accidentally like reveals how we view Pokemon in general. That you're like excited about the battles, and I'm excited about walking around and talking to people.
as a quick side note, I'd say if we're talking about that type of the slice of life in between songs that play on routes and cities, I'd have to take Gen 4. I just Route 218, that snow. Oh man, it's I think that's one of my top 5 soundtracks right there. The snow one up to Candace. But yeah, back to your point. I think that so what, that makes you better than me?
No, certainly not.
I have an appreciation, of course, for those types of songs, but at the end of the day, it's a game dedicated to, if you want the other angles and aspects of Pokemon, which are the friendship, the relationships, the slice of life. Not that they're not found in video games, but they're found more in the manga. And that's where you would go for that. Even the cards, you can appreciate the art. But if you're here in the games, then you're here to fight, right? You're here to do other things,
Yes.
you know, like you can do competitions. But like, I don't think it's out of. I don't think I'm out of line for saying that.
No. I don't think
the fights should be the main
I just think
that's
that's a funny point. I just think that's
yeah,
that's funny.
It's telling. Yeah,
we've been talking about. I've been gushing about you know, design and world building, and it's very telling that I'm like, oh, when I think of music, I think of like you know,
yeah, the in betweens, yeah,
Cerulean City's theme.
They're great background songs.
So I've always viewed them as like kind of understated. Like I would not describe like there may be 3 tracks in Gen 1 that like if I were to give each track one word, there are probably 3 that I would give grandiose, and that's the Hall of Fame, the Elite Four, and Gym Battles, which those are the ones that you mentioned, so that checks out. But the thing that always stood out to me about Gen 1's music is that it is always like, it's always busy. It like whenever you're in cities, it always feels like this is the tone of the city. Like in lieu of there being people in the city for you to talk to, because pretty much every city is like 5 houses.
Yeah, true.
In lieu of there being a city that you can see, here is music that kind of represents like the life of that city. You know, Pallet Town is very like, you know, very very meandering and very very like, almost pastoral. This sort of idea that like this is even when this isn't where your Pokemon journey starts. This is like a small town that no one's ever heard of. That like everyone who lives there, it kind of has like a quiet life. Whereas you look at something like Cerulean City, or Celadon City rather, and that's like the and that's like, okay, yeah, this is, you know, this is a big city. There's stuff going on. There's excitement going on. But it always sort of has that theme to me of sort of like, this is the world, and the sort of common theme between all of those is that it is always sort of like upbeat to sort of suggest that there is a that it's kind of like it's city life, you know. It's sort of a more urbanized region of the world, that there are these big cities that are like actual cities, you know. They got skyscrapers. They got Saffron City, which is a city full of skyscrapers. They got Celadon City, that's got, you know, the big old supermarket in the middle of it. And what I like love about the Pokemon Gold's music is that it like perfectly, in my opinion, shows the difference between Kanto and Johto, even though they're like linked by land. It shows the difference in the music. Whereas Kanto maintains this like busy city life motif. Pretty much all of the tracks on Johto are much like a lower BPM. They're usually like more lilting melodies. I think like if I were to pick the 2 like biggest extremes that reflect my point, I would say listen to the music of Celadon City and listen to the music of Celadon Town, or Azalea Town from Johto, and like that gives you the best picture of like what I'm talking about. That like Johto is characterized as being a more rural region in general. And it reflects this like in its architecture, because it has all the traditional Japanese like towers and all this stuff, and it has all these things. But the strongest way that it reflects that, in my opinion, is that all of the music is a lot more, it's lower BPM, and it's a lot more lilting. It's a lot more like, this is a quiet life when you compare it to how Kanto is, which is why going over to Kanto becomes like this this moment where you realize that like the world has changed because suddenly you are witness to these big cities, and they're full of a lot of like, you know, the same. They're sort of remixes of the original Gen 1 music, and they still reflect this idea that like, oh yeah, the world's sort of changed.
Each generation has bangers. I mean, there's this YouTube channel I follow that's like Gen 5 music hits so hard, Gen 4 music hits hard, Gen 3, and then it just goes all of them with like memes, just like playing over each song, and it just made me appreciate all of them across the board. I feel like every generation has a handful, like a really solid amount of really good bangers for cities and battles alike. I will say that too. Cities, routes, and battles. I'm a little indifferent to all of them. I don't have this favoritism only for battles. I just think that is where Hoenn shines, and coincidentally, battles are arguably the most important mechanic in a Pokemon game.
I do think.
But even the routes are great because, like, being a very nature-oriented region with a lot of wildlife and a lot of sea and a lot of just like, you know, you got the volcano. It's inspired off of a place in Japan. I forgot what it's called, but not to say every game has some inspiration in it, but I think the choice of trumpets and horns complement it well because it's this majestic, it's this grandiose adventure through a vast world full of so many new things for an average Pokemon fan at this point. We've never seen this new region, new Pokemon, new everything. So I mean,
and I will say,
think it was perfect.
Yeah, and I will say that like I do love some songs from like Cynthia's theme's a classic. Everyone knows Cynthia's theme.
Yeah.
Cynthia's theme is maybe the GOAT of all Pokemon music. What's the one from Gen 5? Sky Arrow Bridge. That's a good one. That's one that everyone loves.
Well, the classic, you know, Toothless Dancing is from Driftvale City, I think.
Driftvale City. That's another one that's
classic.
Like the music is probably something that like within every Pokemon game I can say like is good. I think Pokemon always has pretty good music, even like the bad music. Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Even the bad music is like at least it's based on something that's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that wasn't. You know, I liked the Pokewalker is peak cinema. You know, like the Pokewalker I think was the best idea they ever had, and in true Pokemon fashion, these motherfuckers never looked back. They were like, we're never gonna do that again. Sorry. Like that, everyone carries a fucking phone with them. Game. Just let me put my fucking Psyduck on my phone and then take him on a walk. Is that so hard to do? I had so much fun like role playing as like a Pokemon trainer. Like and I could because I had a Pokewalker, so like I would like put my Cyndaquil on my Pokewalker and like go for a walk and like talk to my Cyndaquil. Dude, I was so autistic. It's no wonder that like everyone in my small town thought I was mentally disabled because I was walking around talking to myself. But I don't know. It was great memories. I love it.
You were a Pokemon trainer.
I was.
Right.
I was a Pokemon.
They have
trainer.
nothing on you. At the end of the day, you were the trainer, not them.
So I think now we've eaten enough of our vegetables. We can talk about. We can enter the Coomer Cave.
That's perfect timing because like
and I think it's also a good time to mostly because I want to talk about like the spin-offs. I want to talk about I call them spin-offs, but I guess to you it's like the actual of everything, like the manga and the show and all that stuff. I also don't want to go to jail, so.
Well, that's on you because my hands are clean. I already have I'm locked and loaded, ready to go, and I know I am walking away from this conversation not under the investigation of the FBI.
I don't want to. I don't want to go to jail. Why don't you lead and talk about it?
Yeah, Winona. Oh my lord. Okay, Winona. Let me tell you why in multiple levels she is, out of the water, the best girl. A lot of depth to her character, especially in a franchise where up until this point, very hard to find one that is okay to talk about. It's almost a relief to see. Oh, here's like a middle-aged woman as a gym leader. Finally. Not like a child or a
Wait,
or
which
a young
one are
man.
you talking about?
The flying type gym leader from Hoenn.
Winona, the Elite Four member specializing in water type.
Winona, the gym leader. What? Winona, the flying type gym leader, not the water type Elite Four.
I'm looking up the age. Okay, all right. Late teens,
Yeah,
early
Winona.
20s.
No, Winona's like 30. What do you mean?
Late teens, early 20s.
All right, whatever. Because we're looking, especially in the manga too, right? She's like 30 something. She takes on a very motherly role for the protagonists, May or Sapphire and Ruby, and she has this romance with Wallace, which is it's mid, whatever, but it's really I don't know, one of the first instances where we see just this like how do you say it? Just this motherly character, and it's nice. Eventually we get Cheryl, which is in Gen 4. We get I don't know. There aren't really actually like a ton, but Winona's great. Her design peak, okay. Her fighting style, amazing. All right. Her Pokemon Altaria, like I said, really annoying Pokemon to defeat that early in the game. To encounter a dragon type just sucks. And then also manga just really helps her character a lot. The Adventures manga helps her character a lot. So yeah, for sure. Her hair's cool. The helmet's cool. Yup. The best.
All
anyway,
right. Phew.
Did you say phew? Oh.
Yeah. I'm looking something up, but I don't know that I can trust this.
Bro's double checking.
Listen, I don't want to go to jail.
Covering all his bases.
Yeah, listen. Okay, so I think if we're talking games, I think probably well, I don't know that I can trust this, so I don't know that I want to say that.
Gulp. Your show, not mine.
Gulp. Well, then
your YouTube video, not mine.
All right, I'll pass. I'll skip. Actually, well, I don't know. The easy answer is Cynthia, right? The easy answer is you just say like, I like Cynthia.
Yeah, it's such a basic.
But that's like that's the easy answer. Every guy wants to get their balls stepped on by Garchomp, and she watches.
By Garchomp, yeah. Correct. That's how you save yourself right there.
But I don't know, man. Is it Hadir? Is it Hadir? Is that? All right, I'm skipping.
Wow. Okay. All right, just say Sabrina and move on.
I'm not gonna say Sabrina.
So what? That would be a respectable one. That's a valid
I'm gonna say.
one.
All right.
Also,
Here's what I say. I say Misty in Gen 2 if she's of age.
Oh, Misty's so basic. But hold on. First off, I feel like you're ironically being the thing that you're saying is bad by worrying too much about that.
I am. Yeah.
Best girl doesn't mean you want to fuck them. That like we're not specifying. This is like our romanticized.
We'll see how the comments feel about that. We'll see how the comments feel about that.
I'm just saying who's the best girl. Like I don't know. It's nothing. It's not to be read into any deeper than
don't
that.
read any. No one read into this. Hi guys, it's me, Editor Kiwi. I'm here to interject on behalf of Podcast Kiwi to say that my final answer for this category is it's Claire, Lance's sister, gym leader of the Dragon Gym in Johto. That's my final answer. And you can look it up right now. Go on Google right now. You'll see that I'm not going to jail. So that's my final answer. And let the record show that that's my final answer.
But yeah, cause like best man sounds weird, or best boy sounds weird.
Best guy has gotta be Wallace for sure.
If there was, really? What? Oh, what? Wait. What?
Yeah, gotta be Wallace for sure.
No.
Yeah, I'm 100% dead ass actually. No, just kidding. I'm not. I'm not dead ass at all. I have no opinion.
Wallace
I think maybe Steven. I think Steven's cool. Lance is obviously really cool.
I love Steven.
There's a lot of thirsty people trying to get in the professor from Sun and Moon, the dude. The dude who like fights his Pokemon. Everyone's like, I don't know. I don't see it. He looks like a regular Hawaiian man to me.
A regular Hawaiian man?
Yeah, that's what a Hawaiian man looks like. Editor Kiwi, pull up a picture of the guy and then put a picture of the Hawaiian man next to him.
I thought the Hawaiian man?
Yeah, the professor. I don't know what his name is.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, Editor Kiwi, pull up a picture of a Hawaiian man, just like a dude from Hawaii. I'm like, what point is that proving?
I'm gonna put like Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
No, just put the guy from Stitch whose ice cream cone.
Yeah.
It's obviously a tourist.
I don't really know. You know what sucks is that I read like the first like 3 books of the Pokemon the Pokemon Adventures.
Yeah.
I read like the first 3 books of them, and I was pretty disappointed that there was no Jesse and James.
No, because Jesse and James are like, they have their trope and they play it well, but they're not built for a long overarching series. You know, come on, in your heart of hearts, you know that Jesse James are a gimmick one-trick pony type of character archetype where they work well in a serialized TV show where they need to come on, say their piece, do their daily or episodic capture, and they get thwarted, blast off again, blah blah blah. It's just a rinse and repeat system. Versus, you know, it just doesn't work for a manga that has a it's right off the bat, it's trying to take itself more seriously with its tones and its themes. There's Pokemon straight up dying in Adventures, and Arbok gets sliced in half.
Yeah, that is true.
Stabbed by a muck. It's like Jesse and James just don't fit in that world.
That's fair. But my answer for in the anime is definitely Jessie, for sure. That's easy.
Interesting.
She's like 25. She's like it doesn't. It doesn't for me. I think
the hair does it really. No, yeah. I like James when he cross dresses on the beach. dude, breaking up a piece of that. Holy hell, man! He slayed. He slayed. Period. Okay. He slayed. Period.
Well, I wonder what my wife will think about this section of the episode.
Well, she better agree, or else that's a discussion you need to have.
Lapis is on record saying James slayed. So.
Period. Okay.
Period. Oh yeah, period. Make sure to add the period.
Man, quote me if you're gonna quote me.
In the manga, Lorelai. Definitely Lorelai.
Okay, no, Lorelai. I can really respect that. That's a great one. In the manga, she is a menace. She's like a strategic powerhouse.
Yeah.
She is intimidating. No, she's great. She's great. And, childhood crush.
She definitely kills me. She does. I'm always looking for a girl who just fucking kill me. But yeah,
she would kill you.
She would. I you know what? I would welcome it.
Childhood crush wise, I loved Sapphire as a kid because she was just feral. I just liked her. She's just feral, dude. In the manga, her cameo, her debut, she's just in a grass skirt, living in the jungle, eating random things and living in a cave. I'm like, you're insane. This is an animal. That's hilarious. And something about that, my 10-year-old brain was like, ooh.
Yeah,
I think that when you're a boy, you like that because, like, oh, you can like keep up with me and my. No, okay.
Well, no, actually,
no.
That
10-year-old Lapis did not want to fix that at all.
That was my opinion. That was my thought. When I was a kid, when I eventually like got around to watching the anime, I like Misty because I was like, no one likes her. I can be the one guy that likes her. Like everyone is always like. You're not a girl. You're not beautiful. Yeah, everyone's like everyone like made fun of her. They're like, oh, you're like too much of a boy. Like you're like,
really?
Yeah, no one like everyone would always like discredit her whenever she was like, well, I'm like there's a scene in the anime where like they're at like Erica's gym and Brock is like, I've never seen so many beautiful girls in one place. And she's like, well, why don't you look behind you? And he's like, Misty, we can't both be like
I've seen
hallucinating.
it.
And I'm like, and when I was a kid, I was like, but I think she's beautiful, and I could be the guy that like makes her think that she's beautiful. So that, which that was
the I can fix
that
her
was
mentality is like
so I was
every boy's gone through that phase.
So that's
to some degree.
That's where my childhood crush was, and that was kind of it's kind of the biggest
I'd say sorry, go ahead.
I was just kind of I was always falling victim to that because in Ocarina of Time, like one of my first childhood crushes ever was Princess Ruto.
Oh, you told me about
for
that.
the exact same reason. For like the whole time, the whole like mission is like, oh man, like I hate this girl. She's so annoying and like ugly because she's a fish. And I was like, but I think she's beautiful.
But
I could be there for her and tell her that she's beautiful. Yeah, listen, I'm aware. But I think it's good that I am on record right now. By the way, just so that in some future episode I don't get exposed. Let me be on record right now saying I'm a scaly, so that no one can hold that above me.
Oh, and to not be guilty by association, I would like to clarify that I personally think that's a horrible mentality to use IRL for girls.
Well,
I can fix her, or don't do that, guys. A little dating advice there. You look like a white knight.
Yeah. I was.
But
trust me.
I did that in let's see who I loved. I liked Crystal. I definitely liked Crystal. I liked in the manga. She specifically would catch Pokemon by kicking her Pokeballs at them because she was like, I don't know, a soccer player. I thought that was so cool and badass when I was a kid.
I think like, if I had read the manga when I was a kid, I would have had a similar crush on Crystal.
Yeah, she was very commanding, but she was also like underappreciated because she was like the professor's assistant.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I would appreciate you. It was the same thing, you know.
I did not care for Dawn at all, in game or
didn't care for Dawn. However, there is a Pokemon manga. Me too. Didn't care for Dawn. Didn't give a hoot or a holler. However, there is a Diamond and Pearl manga that is kind of like Pokemon Adventures, but it's not technically. When Pokemon Adventures got to Gen 4, they went with, the classic heroes, which is Diamond. His name was Diamond. His name was Pearl. But at the same time, they made a manga called Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Adventure ! Not Pokemon Adventures. Not Pokemon Adventures Diamond and Pearl, but Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Adventure. And it followed this boy named Hereta. I don't know who he is, whatever. Or how to say his name. But it's a completely it's like the equivalent of Shadow of War to Lord of the Rings. Shadow of War follows around Talion. It's not canon to Lord of the Rings. I don't think it's canon. However, they take all the characters and just give them new names. Like Diamond's name is Hereta. Pearl, his rival, is named he's named the blonde-haired kid's named something else. But Dawn is named Mitsumi. And Mitsumi is like a revamped version of Dawn with a lot more character depth. She's secretly a galactic admin. There's so much more personality to her. Her design's tweaked just a little bit. You should look it up, Mitsumi, in Pokemon manga. I'd recommend any viewer to read the manga. It's smaller and shorter. It's more self-contained. But it's Hereta going around with the Sinnoh gym leaders. With Mitsumi and his rival, forgot his name. His name's Barry in the game. I forgot what his name is.
Ralph.
In the manga. But anyway, no,
Ralph.
you
Maybe I always named him Ralph. I don't know why his name is Ralph in my head.
It's Barry. But there's other new characters like anyway, you can cut all that out and read and condense that to just
digression.
There was a spin-off manga of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl called Diamond and Pearl Adventure. Follows a boy named Hereta, and Dawn is her version of that. The Dawn equivalent in that manga is Mitsumi, who looks exactly the same with a few minor character differences. I'm sure if you don't like Dawn, you like her a lot. You would love her. She has a lot of depth to her character.
The direction I was going, though, I don't know if you partake in shipping culture, but I think that Dawn was the best because the Diamond and Pearl was the anime that I watched the most of. I mean, retroactively, I've gone and see all of them, but at the time, I like only freshly watched Diamond and Pearl as it was coming out, and I think that Ash's best romantic interest was Dawn. I think Serena, what's her name? Serena, the one in Unova. Well, Iris, Iris, I didn't care for, and I don't think I don't think you'll find very many people who ship them. I say before someone from Tumblr clips this part and says like, "This guy's fucking stupid."
Quick time event.
He doesn't know anything. Yeah. And then Serana from what's her name? Serena, Gen 6. I think. Serena was like the one that Ash actually had a romantic relationship with. It was basically like basically, right? And that's the one that like most people ship together. But I think Dawn was better. I don't know if you have a thing.
Not really, honestly. Like I just agree. Not that I don't have an opinion, but I agree.
And then I think
pretty well put, well said.
I think the anime's portrayal of beauty contests I liked. I actually preferred how the anime did that more than the game. How the game did it was thing. I really hated the beauty contests, and I didn't even do them. But I like that, like Phantasma, the ghost lady. You know, she kind of incorporated it into her combat, and I was like, that's like a cool way. That makes me excited to like participate in that.
True. I like that. I like that element. Yeah, it just added more. It just made the world feel. It was world building. Made the world feel a little bit more deep. Oh wait! You thought you could get away. You thought you could get away. You thought you could crawl back under that rock that you emerged from to do this little podcast and say, haha, I said my piece and I could get away with it. Well, guess what? You can't. We're going back to the Gen 2 designs because at the beginning, I laid the little Schrodinger's Chekhov's gun or whatever the bullshit you want to call it. And I mentioned that I didn't like their designs, and we're back on that because I'm not going to let that go.
Okay, all right.
Because
we end on
this. Here we go. I'm going to rattle them off in rapid fire succession, and you tell me. And you try. You just go ahead and try with all your might, little Kiwi man, to defend such abominishments like Dunsparce.
Dunsparce is a hilarious thing.
More like dumb sparse, bro.
Okay, first of all, his name literally means boring. His name is 2 ways to say the word boring. He looks like a flat, squished snake, which is based off of a Japanese mythology. But his whole thing is that he's supposed to look boring and dumb, and he's a normal type Pokemon. He's the first normal type Pokemon that actually looks like not just some animal. He's the first time that they were like, let's make a normal type Pokemon not just be a normal animal.
Yeah, okay, counterpoint. Why would they consciously make a Pokemon boring?
I don't see what the issue is.
Why would they sit down and go like we have so many designs, we have so much, the possibilities are endless. This is a magical world full of fantastical creatures that can like split the sky, can level mountains. Let's make a Pokemon that is like, you could argue that Snorlax is a boring Pokemon. He's a lazy Pokemon.
No, he's
Slacking is a lazy, boring Pokemon, but done the right way. This is like, if you want to be boring, at least have your design be cool. This is not only boring, but disgusting to look at. This looks like a bug that I ran over with my bike.
Dunsparce. Dunsparce. I love Dunsparce. He's one of my favorite Pokemon. I use him in my.
You would love Dunsparce.
Yeah, I love Dunsparce because he's like, he's just a creature, and he's a creature that like you can imagine a cave full of these things.
Ew,
you know?
ew, gross. That makes me. That scares me.
Like that idea of like, I go out into the world and I'm not sure what kind of creatures I'm gonna find. You kind of need to have these creatures that like don't do anything. You know, just to balance the world, just for the world to not be full of these like world-ending creatures. You gotta have some of these mythical creatures that exist just to kind of exist and be these creatures that live.
Okay,
and Dunsparce is a good example.
Then let's move on to Quillfish. Okay, it's all right to have maybe one or two Pokemon that don't really have evolutions, that are kind of boring, whatever. But now we're on our second one. Okay, not even. I'm pretty sure it's like 5 away from the Dunsparce in the Pokédex. But now we're on a pufferfish that doesn't even evolve. It's just a pufferfish.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
That's what's wrong with it. The fact that it's just a pufferfish.
But we're living in a world where Pokemon are supposed to be creatures. What do you want him to be?
You just got done saying Dunsparce was like their first step into the world of they're not creatures.
No.
Which one is it?
No. You misunderstood my point then. Because my point is that Dunsparce is just a creature. Like there need to be just creatures. Because
I get that.
Pokemon is just creatures.
I get that there's just creatures, but Steelix is just a creature, and he looks cool as hell.
No, he's not just a creature. He is a fucking gigantic metallic like robot snake. That's not something that you can just say.
If you saw him from a distance, he looks like a long line. Like that.
That's not a good. You can say like, well, if you look at Lucario from a really long way, like from like a mile away.
Silhouette. You said his silhouette at the beginning of this video is like incredibly
a silhouette viewed from a normal distance. You can't use
distance
he's got like
as a
thing.
Okay, not distance. All right. Tyranitar
hold on.
is a creature. Okay.
What do you want Quillfish to look like for him to be good?
I don't want Quillfish to exist.
Why not? Well, okay. No. Because this is like the point that I was trying to make when I said Pokemon are becoming too much of characters. Let's say that we go back in time, we put you in the seat, and Pokemon, as high up as it goes, Nintendo itself comes to you and they said, all right, you need to make Pokemon number 211. We want to add more water encounters, and we want an encounter specifically for this small little pond. We want like a unique encounter in this small little pond. We kind of want to, we want to make another fish Pokemon. Go. What do you want it to be?
Well, alright, so that's already limiting the fact that they specifically said fish Pokemon. They wouldn't realistically tell me that, would they? Or are you assuming for this?
I'm saying for the sake of this argument, you are making a fish Pokemon in 2001. Go. What do you want it to be?
Well, you're setting me up. You're setting me up right now, young man, because I could just easily say, oh, I'm making a Pokemon before the other Gen out. I'm just gonna take the Gen 3 disc.
Okay.
Gonna take
then if you did that,
I'll make Lotad. Boom.
Okay, you make Lotad. Stop right there. You made Lotad. Okay. They don't want it to evolve. You made Lotad. Lotad is 211.
Okay, they don't want it to evolve. Why?
You made Lotad 211.
Where?
Cut to 2009. They go, what the fuck? Lotad? This thing sucks. It doesn't evolve. It's just like a lily pad with a little frog under it. That's
cool. That's so. It's better than a pufferfish. It's better than a literal pufferfish. It's just a pufferfish. That's it. It's just a. It's a spiky ball. The color palette isn't even cool. That looks like the paint on the walls of like a hospital. Those are not even enticing colors to begin with. His face is angry. He looks pissed off perpetually. His tail, what even is that tail? It's like two little dots on his tail, right? Like there are creatures in this world that are cool and simple. Feraligatr is just a crocodile and he looks cool, right? Because he's got a tantalizing color palette. He's got a really aesthetically pleasing physical features like the big, strong, sturdy base, right? A big, wide mouth with fangs, right? But you're talking Pokemon that are smaller. Naturally, you're going to want to have them bigger eyes, a bigger head. You just look a little bit kind of either cuter or just, because I know cuter can kind of corner me into a debate. Just like nice to look at. Dude, Quillfish makes me want to turn up in disgust.
This is what I was talking about. That like in future gens, people expect every Pokemon to be a character. This is not supposed to be a character. This is a creature. This is a pufferfish. They said, how do we want a pufferfish to be like mythical? Let's make him this thing that's not the color
is
that
anything
pufferfish
but
usually are.
mythical.
But okay, he's a
what?
balloon. He's like one of those sea mines. That's what he's supposed to be. He's one of those sea mines. And he inflates himself and explodes into spikes, and that's what he's supposed to be. He doesn't need to be a fucking, like, he doesn't even have fucking lasers coming out of his head. If you want that, go to Digimon. Next, go to the next one. Go to the next one. I'm tired of offending Quillfish. I don't even like him.
I'm also gonna say on the point of evolutions, we have, like, I think 3 or 4. Gen 2, another huge blunder they do is they have so many one-stage evolutions. That is so dumb. Let's not use the mechanic that makes us, like, unique and individual as a franchise. Let's just not use that. Because then we got Girafarig, okay? We've got Wobbuffet. We've got Apom. We've got Hoppip's a big issue for me because...
Hoppip is 3. Hoppip is 3.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna need... Okay, so I would place my finger to your lips right now if we were in a studio. Okay? Go. He's an example of, finally, we're doing evolutions, they just fucking suck, okay? Because, okay, well, he's gonna grow Hoppip, okay, he's small now, but he's got the potential to be kind of either big physically or cool looking, right? Okay, then we got Skip Bloom, okay, a little bit worse. He looks like he's rocking the bowler hat haircut from Dumb and Dumber. He's rocking Jim Carrey's haircut from Dumb and Dumber, but that's okay, that's fine, that's whatever. He's got these dumbass ears with this ditto-looking face, really simple, body, just stumps poking out of a ball. But it's the second evolution. At least we're gonna get a jump up. No, we're not. We're not gonna get any change at all. It's gonna be the exact same size. Okay, if anything, I think Hoppip or what's his name? Jump. We're not even gonna talk about that name. Let's just keep the ball. Let's change the color. Let's give him 3 little balls on the side. Let's make him be the exact same size. It's like so underwhelming as an evolution.
You can be that derivative. You can be that derivative with any Pokemon. We can't be saying that because I could say like, oh well, Crocodile. Sandile is just like a crocodile, and then Crocodile is just like he's standing on 2 legs and he's red now. What the hell? Like we can go about being derivative all day. Hoppip is Hoppip.
But you see how that one at least fits the 2. I gave 2 examples, either size or visuals change. Nothing. Hoppip
turns blue.
Jumpluff
becomes blue. We were continuing. There was not a cut. Yeah. Don't worry, guys. Anyway, that's it. That's all the time that we have for me.
That's it. Oh,
I don't know. How do you want to end? This is the first episode.
I had him by the ropes. No. It's yeah, no, it's fine. I'm trying to. I just know that the second we're gonna be done recording, there's gonna be like 5 points we forgot about other things about the games, but I think I could agree that overall, I don't feel like. I mean, especially in terms of like worst region, that's such a funny thing to say to begin with. It's this like I'm gonna use the mentality I use for Doctor Who. So you prepare yourself. I even saying who's the worst Doctor is such an unproductive conversation, and I think that all of them shine in different ways. Some more than others, obviously, but especially in this specific conversation, 2 and 3 are both far from the bottom. If you were coming, Kiwi, if you were coming at me with like Gen 8 or 7 or something,
yeah.
We'd have. We're both fighting each other with Peak, so it's like, at the end of the day, we both come out victorious because at least we're not those Gen 8 weirdos.
I should say, I should reaffirm that I love Gen 3. I certainly enjoy going through. I do a lot of like all bug team runs, and Gen 3 is actually my favorite generation to do that.
Gen 3 bug runs.
Yeah, you got a lot of.
Gen 3 has some pretty has some good bug Pokemon.
But yeah, I think and I never. That's why I made this a podcast. I realized as I was making the video you can't really answer that question of like what is the best generation, because there's a lot to love about all the generations, and I think I would append that that point made at the beginning of this, where I said like the best generation is the one you grew up with, and I think I would append, or I would alter that a little bit to say that the best generation is the one that you identify most with. If you identify with N and with themes, and you want to have like a hot Pokemon boyfriend, then you probably love Jeff.
I know I do,
and I can't really fault you for that, even if I disagree with you. And if my favorite generation is the one that is like the least mechanically sound, and but I love the story, then I think it is valid for me to say that Gen 2 is the best for me, just as Gen 3 might be the best for Lapis.
Going off that, I think that I can also say my point has been altered to where Pokemon games are whatever you want to get out of them, and they should be. A lot of people come to Pokemon for many different reasons, and at the end of the day, we all end up in Victory Hall. Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
The Hall of Fame.
What the hell? Oh god. What a butcher. God, fake fan. Just shoot me now. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, we all come to Pokemon for so many different reasons, and at the end of the day, we all end up in the Hall of Fame. But how we get there and the things we do along the way and who we win with can be, and I think that's one of the reasons Pokemon is beautiful, completely different for each cartridge. And as a bonus point on that, there are people who don't end up in the Hall of Fame, who never go to the Hall of Fame, who never beat the champion, but look back fondly on this franchise as something that helped mold their childhood, and they love their Grovyle to death, and they don't even know what a Sceptile is, and that doesn't matter, because that's not why they came to Pokemon.
And for those people, I would say play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, and that's who the main character is Grovyle. So
there. Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a Grovyle.
I played Mystery Dungeon like for like an hour, and then I got bored of it because I was like,
one of my first reviews on my channel was Mystery Dungeon.
Oh, really? I played the one on the DS with the stylus where you circle around Pokemon Ranger, I think.
Ranger, yeah. The only way
that one was weird.
But anyway,
I liked it.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy this podcast format. More to come eventually. I don't really know what kind of guests or what kind of topics we'll have, but I'll be here.
But I'll be back.
More Kiwi, more Kiwi, maybe more Lapis.
You haven't seen the last of me. Yeah. When you see the title that says Doctor Who on his YouTube video, you can boldly assume that you will hear my melodious voice.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to watch Doctor Who is home. Anyway.
You watch it just for the video. That'd be something. I
would do it.
I feel like you would.
Thank you all for watching. And Lapis, is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug before the video's over?
Oh, well, it's in the name, Lapis. If you just look me up, pretty much anywhere, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Lapis with a Z, Lapis with a Z. That's about it in a plug. I mean, hey, just check me out on all my socials. And yeah, hopefully this hopefully, dude. Hopefully this grows, because I think that these discussions are really fun, and a lot of people don't know me from these types of things because they don't know that I am this autistic. They know I'm at least a little bit, given my drawings, but not to this degree. So I'd love for these to take off so you can do more of them.
Yeah, me too. So you hear that, audience? Share it with your friends. Share it on your Tumblr page. And,
Tumblr page.
And I guess it's called a blog. Anyway, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. That's it. Bye.
Yeah.